Reef DVM's coming at you with the patio view. That's the best way I can describe it. Kind of been planning this for the last couple of years. The farm has grown in its sale of goats, and we're very appreciative to everybody who supports us, especially right now as the farm is kind of struggling through this kind of crippling year. Obviously, small businesses are having a hard time, and farmers aren't any different. We're kind of under a lot of suppression, and it's not good. But either way, things have been contracted since last year. We actually bought this barn in November, and technically we paid for it in January before any of this stuff hit because of builder value days. And what this barn is this will be actually the kind of the work area for my wife and bride Molly, so that she can work with the pregnant animals, especially the goats, and then it's going to house a lot of pregnant goats. So this barn is 50 feet long, 30 feet wide, and it's basically a Prager's barn for meat goats. So it should work really well in the winter. It will be heated. It will have stalls inside and some concrete. Really good ventilation system and a lot of insulation and so forth. We contracted with Morton, and we time-lapsed it as they put it up. It's kind of a fun video to make, just because sometimes when you're seeing something by time-lapse wise, it really kind of makes it fun. You can really appreciate how hard the men work and stuff. The thing I always like about these buildings is, the concrete footings all the way down in the earth. So it's a very easy footing for the gentlemen to put in. They come precast. They drop them in with a big threaded rod in the center of the precasted column and a big plate at the bottom. So all they got to do is screw it, and it moves up the concrete to the level they want. The concrete truck comes in. They pour their little concrete at the base of it. The next day they come up and they put their walls on the sides and then kind of tip them up into place. And it works just slick. I love the bolt-on rafters. I like their bird blocking. I like how they put their, added lower panel of plywood on the inside to protect it. Of course, that also helps to have wainscot on. These guys do it all. And of course, it's color matched for all the other buildings in the barn. That's our analness. This particular barn has got, I think, a 16-foot door on one side to get us in and out, a couple utility doors. And obviously, it's got some ceiling and attic space in it, so that's kind of nice. As far as the time to build this barn, it actually took, less than 2 weeks. We did have a rain day in here. That slowed down the guys a little bit. And obviously, we had to put up with the fact that you've got an afternoon where concrete has to dry, and that's fine too. I mean, these things are what they are. The pad was built by me personally. I've got some people at Hopkins Sand and Gravel, which were really nice to me, and they brought in, 10, 15 loads of road gravel, and I decided to build it out of road gravel. And the reason I did that, typically I build my pads out of sand, actually, and then I just cap them with gravel so the guys can, have some decent strength up on the top. But I chose not to do that this time because, as you can see, this is slightly on an incline, and there's a lot of water that comes off this slow incline and heads towards this building. So I chose to use gravel, which would be a little better base, and I chose to lift the barn up about 6 to 8 inches. And on the side between the swing set and the first goat field, I drain tiled it. I drain tiled it quite heavily, and that was good. I think that was a smart maneuver, and I'm going to put the gutter system right into the drain tile on what will be the north side that faces us here. That will help quite a bit. The other thing that we decided to do because of its location is try to keep the temperature correct. So we have all the venting going out on the east side, which would be the morning sun side. The west side, obviously, would be the hotter side. So we tried to kind of time that. And then on the south side of the barn, just works out well, at least in the main space. We've got 2 skylights in there, which is good. On the other side, which is completely finished and, going to be heated and air conditioned, that's not going to have any skylights. That really wouldn't work unless you did those kind of glass tube things. So we're just going to have to go with electric power there. Speaking of electric power, the co-op is coming out to put electric to the building, which is good. We don't have that quite at the time of this this all being done. But, you got to do it in stages. It'll probably be a few months before we have the funds up for the concrete, too. We plan to have the funds for the concrete by April, May, and then be ready to do it at the same time. But nobody planned on the government, coming in and being what they are. So that kind of slowed us down there. As far as the fields go, these fields were all fenced. Each fence is somewhere around, I would say probably 75 to 100 feet wide, and it's pretty close to about 100 feet long, each little rectangle. And there's 4 of them up front and then 2 bigger ones in the back. And this building is being built in kind of the third one of these. So we did have to take down the fencing. That was a pain in the butt. Take out the T-post. Morton's crew did build within 12 feet of a set of posts, but we capped them for safety's sake. Propane tank, which is for the heat and stuff, had to be moved out of the way. So, we had to take our precautions. It's a little rough on the goats. They lose some pasture right now during this, and they can't get to the back field there. But, in a month or so, when I've got the fences all put back together, they'll be just fine. This part here is always kind of the fun part when the building becomes real sticky. Pole buildings, look kind of neat as they start putting up the sticks. I like how these buildings are. There's green treat on the bottom ledger board of this building, but all the poles are regular, southern pine, and they don't need to be green treat because again they're not in the ground, which is good. The steel on this building is just typical Morton steel. I did have them do the gutters. I'm real fortunate in my area that this company does gutters. I know a lot of companies don't do gutters. And I'm not trying to pick on the others out there, the Lesters and the Clearys and Shermans and all those. They're good buildings too, probably. But I've worked with several of them, and most of them have to sub out the gutters. And the only thing I don't like about subbing out the gutters on your steel pole building is you typically get seamless, which is fine, aluminum gutters. They don't hold up in the hail like I'd like. And the other thing I don't like is these big steel roofs really have a lot of sliding snow down them. And even that, they don't hold up on well. They tend to bend. These big steel ones these guys put up, they're about 6 inches deep, 6 inches across, and they're held in with great big, like 20 penny nails. They really, really seem to hold in, and I do like that. That makes it really nice. People always ask, what do these buildings cost? To the left of the screen there, you see a little lean shed that we put up. John helps us with those, and we can put one of those up for, I'm going to say, probably a 10 by 10 for about $2,000. I'd say that one's 11 by 16, probably pushing 3, but they're really nice for the animals. And then when you think of that cost and you say, well, you've got several of those, they're obviously nothing compared to one of these barns. Barn like this, a 30 by 40 runs right around 35 to 39,000, depending on how you spec it out. If you take out the wainscoting and the added plywood protection boards, and you take out some of the service doors and stuff like that. If you make it 30 by 50, which is what we did, and you add some service doors and you insulate part of it, you're pushing over 40. So that's something you got to consider when you get into these. For us, this is an investment of the future. We did it through our local farm bank. The farm banks up here are pretty supportive of us. They do require a business plan. They do require, some information as to why you're doing it, what your profit margin is going to be, and, how fast you can turn around and make the payments. But it was good. We went through the whole process, and they were quite pleased with our planning. So it worked out. I don't think anybody could anticipate the government kind of doing what it did, but we're still here and we're still surviving. I probably wouldn't have built it had I known about all this stuff that was going on with Corona and stuff, but again, we were contracted, so up she goes. And pretty much all set, payment-wise, and payment from the bank had already been given, so it was just basically waiting for the crew. This crew's a really good crew. They got a porta potty on site. They don't smoke, which is nice. No cigarette butts. I've had the same family build, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of our buildings. The Brown Boom family has been a real good family for us. I gladly continue to use them. But as you can see here, the trusses, kind of a raised cord there on the one end, and the rest of them are just flat on the bottom. They're all in. All the purlings are up. The walls are up. Sticks are on. Sticks are up. This is what I like about these buildings. They go up fast. They go up smooth. They go up straight. Barring any natural disaster, they hold up really, really, really well. The inside of this, I will bring in a little bit of sand to level it before concrete and stuff. And then, of course, concrete I'd hope to do by fall. This building has, I want to say, an 18-inch overhang on it, which is kind of nice. It allows for the gutters, but it also allows for that ventilation soffit, which is really nice when you have an insulated portion of it. The guys right now on this side, they're working on ventilation fans. When they're on that side there with the lean, ventilation fans went in when it was in stick form, which is kind of nice because that way then they get trimmed in with the building. And we did make them so that we could pull them out from the inside in case something ever fails with them, because you know how fans can be. Motors go, shrouds go, things vibrate loose. It's kind of the nature of the beast. The ceiling in this barn is just the traditional steel ceiling over the insulated and finished area. But the unfinished area, we are going with the acoustic no drip. So it's kind of deadens the sound a little bit, and it doesn't sweat. It's got like almost feels like a soft, fuzzy felt sprayed into the steel, and that just really kills that drip that you get in the really moist, dewy mornings in the Minnesota heat. As far as the equipment these guys come with, they've come with basically a tractor with a front bucket on it and a rear post digger, and then a lift cart. That's pretty much what they bring. Lift cart in this case is rented, but I understand that's how they keep it affordable. I like that these guys are clean. I like that these guys keep their site well. I like that when all the supplies came at the beginning, I don't know if you noticed it, but when the trucker from Iowa came up and laid everything out, he actually had enough old wood to lay all the supplies on wood. And then he actually took the doors, and he took the pallets of screws, and he took some of the lighter steel, like the soffits and stuff, and he actually takes poly out, and he polys over the top. Being that the crew could be several days to a week or two out before they come, it's just nice to see him take care of the materials and supplies. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people bring in supplies for pole barns, and you see them all piled up on a couple different spots, and the wood's just getting weathered, and the steel's just sitting there, and birds are standing on them and walking around, and they're all just laying on the wet, damp grass, and it makes it hard for the guys to pick them up, and it's just not the way it should be when you're building a $30,000-$40,000 barn. So the gutters are on the sides, and they're starting to put the soffit stuff on, as you can see in the pictures. It's kind of funny to see them in, I guess it would be fast motion at this point. Right now in Minnesota, when we're shooting this, it's about 50 degrees, maybe 60, I would say most of the time. We've had a couple days that have got closer to 70. Nights are still dropping down to the high 40s, so it's been good weather for these guys to build. We did have one day of rain, but nothing bad. As you can see, all the grass and stuff is green, all the pastures are green. People always ask on our videos, why we go red and white. That's what happens when you grow up with moo-moos. You kind of addicted to the old whitewashed fences and the red barns. I kind of like the white roofs on the barns because they don't heat up. They really bounce that light off. I've also kind of been partial to the white roofs because we have a lot of birds, whether I like them or hate them, and a lot of their poop is white. As far as the red sides, just a very traditional, kind of dairy barn color for the Midwest. So that's why all the buildings are the color they are. At least on our farm. We put water already in the building already. It's got a crown faucet actually inside the building. That was done because we put it in months and months ago, which is good. But off that ground faucet, we can put in a tank and, pressurize through that system with a pump if we want. Or we can just use the ground faucet. We'll see what we want to do. I'm not real worried one way or another as to how we make that work. So we'll figure that out as kind of time goes on, folks. The steel on the south side is all up, and that's actually a red steel, but inside it looks gray. And then soon they'll do the side steel, and then they'll finish with the roof. This kind of project, there's 2 guys on it. There's been occasionally 3, but almost every day for the 9 days there was 2 guys, and they work about, I would say they get here about 7:30 in the morning, and they take lunch around 11:30 to 12, and they work till about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night, and just those 2 guys, with the exception of when the roofer came, there was 3, and on the last day or so, John was here with them, which was 3 guys. With the exception of that, this whole building was built with 2 guys and just a couple pieces of machine, again, being the lift cart and the tractor, and a lot of DeWalt, plug-in batteries that they recharged, and off the generator on the truck, and really that was it. They did all the rest by swinging hammers and so forth. Steel's all screwed on, roof and sides, so they did it with their guns. This crew likes DeWalt, which is fine. It's a good company. So you can see the wainscot is still lacking there. You can see the plywood, which is the support to that there, and then they'll put the wainscot over it. And there's the roof truck. The roof truck goes all over the Midwest, spending one day on each site just putting on roofing. Kind of a nice truck because literally it can, take those great big, 30-foot long pieces of steel and lift them up, and then the guys can work right off that. In this situation, the steel wasn't quite that long. I want to say the steel was pushing probably 20 feet. But the truck can go as long as 30, which is kind of nice. So lift them up right up to the edge, and they can just slide the sheets. Makes it easier for the guys. This particular barn has a ventilated ridge cap all the way across. You won't see a cupola on this farm. They're great for storing bees and getting bird crap and, of course, leaking. So there are no barns with cupolas on this farm. I do love the weather vane. But, with the birds always sitting on them and crapping them up and stuff like that on the top of the buildings, and the buildings being so hard to get them clean, I don't do it. They are just about done, folks. All they got to do is kind of finish up this back gable wall there, steel, put that wainscoting on, and this project is pretty much done. I certainly hope, folks, you enjoyed the time-lapse video here that we made. It's shot right off our patio, literally at this, and it's a big adventure for the farm to be investing in, and we certainly appreciate and thank you guys for all your support. Those of you that watch our homestead channel, Reef DVMs, certainly know that we're big into animals, everything from saltwater fish all the way up to the cattle and the big draft horses and the goats and the chickens and the gardening. If it wasn't for you folks helping us by watching and supporting our channel and watching our videos, this would all be a lot harder for us to do. During these last couple months, making a few $100s here and there through the Google does help. It really does on a farm. So we certainly want to appreciate all the viewers who comment that they like things and they like seeing the farm and like seeing the fish and the John Deere tractors and farm all tractors and stuff like that, and watching us bale hay and work in the barns and stuff. You guys make our day and certainly help us with our living. So we appreciate you guys liking and watching and subscribing to our channel, and keep watching our videos as they come out. There's 6 of us on the farm, hopefully soon to be 7. And as we continue to grow and thank God for the blessings we have, we'll continue to farm here in kind of central Minnesota. And this building is really gonna help us out, folks. This is gonna take us to the next level of breeding and abilities. So I'm glad you enjoyed the video. Please, again, like and subscribe and support the homestead and the farmstead channel here at Reef DVMs. And if you do put up a barn, I hope you put up a good one. If you put up a Morton, I'm sure you'll be as happy as we are.